All right, guys, we're actually going to look at the chart of AVAV today, and let's put this in perspective. Welcome back to the channel. In yesterday's video, I blew through a bunch of tickers real quick and talked about kind of more of a general point. In the next few videos, I'm going to go through all those tickers one by one and talk about where I think they're headed next. You'll notice we are all the way zoomed out on the AVAV chart. We're looking at the 1 year. Okay, so each of these candles is 1 year. So it goes back to 2007. The first thing you might be asking is why? Why did this happen yesterday? It was primarily caused by news that the Space Force is reopening bidding for the Satellite Communications Augmentation Program resource, SCAR. Of course, everything has to spell something, right? A contract worth $1.4 billion. Now, AVAV, AeroVironment, they'd had this completely locked down. And imagine you have a sale. If you're like an account executive, you have a contract completely locked down. Your biggest client that's worth like 50% of your revenue every year when they renew or something says, oh, I'm gonna shop around now. So you're like, oh shit. And the oh shit was what happened yesterday, apparently, or what caught up to the charts caught up to it yesterday. So that's why the big red candle happened. Now let's zoom all the way out again. And like I said, we gapped up here. So look for that level. This is a gap fill that we haven't quite come back to yet. If you look here to your command key, if you're on Mac, control if you're on Windows, hold shift, you can draw a nice straight line. And this, believe it or not, if we zoom way in, it is not quite touched. You see the low here is 196.22, and this line is 195.65 if you look right down there. So that gap technically has not been filled yet. Sometimes that's all it takes. It counts and it goes up. In this case, I think the stock has further down to go, just TLDR, which I should say at the end. This gapped up. We haven't filled it yet. And when it gapped up, this has been support since then. Okay? And let's call this a range because I like to use that one and that one. Let's use this. All right, and you just drag it out to here, drag it out to here. All right, you've got a nice little range to work with. So as long as you're above that range, this range is support. As long as you're below that range is resistance. And that support flipped into resistance yesterday. So now the chart has to basically break through it all over again. Now that it has... What you wanted to see today was a reversal and a close above here. You actually wanted to see a much bigger candle reversing all the way, at least to the previous day's gains. The fact that, one, this thing whipped to over 300 to 303, according to this chart, and then whipped all the way down to 196.22, which is insane swing for one day. But guys, if you ever heard the expression, the trend is your friend, you've got a lot of huge downward trend here, okay? And then we bust out our parallel channel tool, and we make a channel like that. Right, so you got down, sideways, down. Your gap fill here, which hasn't been hit. So my guess is it at least goes to 195.65 and takes another stab at filling that gap. Thing number two, here's where we zoom out, look at the longer time frames, because longer time frames provide clarity. All right, let's actually make each of these candles 1 month. All right. So, what do we notice here? Yeah, I like this one. Yeah. And what you want to do when you make a line like this, you want to see all these little wicks poking through. Yeah, this is actually great. So now that we've got this in place, let's make it take up the whole screen pretty much. And the next thing we're going to do is pull a fib. And so we take the Fibonacci retracement tool from the bottom to the top of this run, 417.86. Remember that number, we're gonna get as close as we can. 417.74, I'll take it. You have to be on this candle to hold Command or Control on Windows to click it to the top of the candle. So if you go over here, I have nothing to click it to. For any of you who are using TradingView on your own and trying to do what I'm doing. Now what you've got is you've got this line that price action has sort of been a magnet for. And it is going to coincide with the 786 fib level. Fibonacci is one of those things that is found in nature. There's a special kind of cauliflower that has the spiral shapes all over it. Those are Fibonacci spirals. Just Google like Fibonacci spirals in nature. And if you go back 5 or 6 centuries, hell, probably go back millennia, things like this have been around for a really long time. It's just one of those things. And honestly, the Fibonacci tool it's probably one of the things I use the most. Let's go ahead and delete that Fibonacci. You see this range too, you've hit once. That was just to show you the bear flag. You've hit once, twice, 3 times. You're starting to get closer to breaking through here. So you got a little barely pierce, big pierce, and then you've got the body of this candle still hanging out. It's a weekly, the week's not over. You could get a close above 234 and be not necessarily out of the woods, but not feel like the bottom has fallen out. What I expect here, personally, is probably a lot of retail investors thinking they're buying the dip. I would not be shocked to see this thing put in a few more candles like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and start to break to the downside. So guys, I told you I'd use this as a case study and we'd keep coming back to it and seeing what ended up happening. For now, I think it takes another stab at 195, and I would also not be shocked to see this thing land around 170 at this fib level. I don't want to say not your worst case scenario, but your real bear case, if this thing really takes a beating, is it ends up right there around 143.72. So AVAV, to me right now, this is in no man's land. I wouldn't long it here. I wouldn't short it here. I would wait and see. And I'll tell you what, this is what I will say. If it gets up to here, if it bumps into this line, if it bumps into this level, I'm shorting it. If it bumps into this level down here, I would consider going long depending on how the chart looked. Guys, that's AV for now. Please like and subscribe if you got value from this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you missed yesterday's video, I've linked it right. See you there.